everybody, and welcome to my podcast, Love You, Live You, with myself as host, Kathleen Heim. And today I have a very special guest. I say special guest because he is a personal friend of mine. He is a musician, songwriter, producer, motivational speaker, make sure I get them all, coach, and personal development specialist. Quite a diverse background. So I'd like to introduce my guest, Roshad Holiday. Hello, Roshad. Thank you for coming and joining us on the podcast.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Can you see me?
I can see you.
I feel like I'm dark on the picture.
No,
I'm dark, but I feel like I'm darker.
I can see you. I can see you. You can move closer if you like, but I could. There you go. There. Now we see.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I see a shadow of it, but it's all good.
Yeah. So welcome to the show. I'm again. You have so many accolades and so many things that you've done in your life, and I've known you for a while now, and I've seen you make some transitions over the past several years in a different direction. So I just wanted you to give a little bit of background. You have a quite extensive background in music. You were actually, if any of those of you remember the band Something for the People, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. So
Yeah.
Tell us about your music background, what you've done as far as production, some of your accolades. I know you've written for some pretty major events.
I have been in music for just over 30 years. I started as an intern at MCA Records in 1988. That was the beginning of my music journey. And I was fresh out of college, 23 years old, wanting to get into the music business, and that was my way of getting in. I mean, my degree got me in the mailroom or the promotions department for the most part. I was mailing out promotional materials. And it was good. It was fun. I mean, I met a lot of people. It was the beginning of my career.
Well, the interesting thing about you, Roshad, and I already know the answer to some of these questions, but our viewers don't know the answer, is music wasn't something that you had set out initially to achieve. You had a different path, and then you had basically a life-changing event that when you decided to transition from your chosen path to music, right?
For the most part, I mean, I was a combination guy all my life. I was an athlete, and I was moonlighting as a musician. So when I was in junior high school, I played in the jazz band, played drums in the jazz band. So music wasn't foreign to me, but it wasn't something that I pursued. I knew that to go to college, I had a better shot in sports. So I ran track and I played football, and I got a track scholarship to San Diego State. And that's where my life was for, the better part of a good 8 years, sports, athletics. And it wasn't until my senior year of college when I realized, I was like, well, my mom was a huge part of it. She was like, I don't want you to become a track bum. And she called, I don't want you to be running just in meets and not making money and everything. So I had to really give it some thought and think about what direction I wanted to go in life. And I kind of leaned back on music, and here I am 30 years later, still doing it to a certain extent. But yeah, it's been quite a journey.
What was it like to be in a band back in, what was it, the 80s, right?
The 90s for the most part.
90s, okay.
Yeah. The music business was thriving. It was fun. We had a hit single in 1997, so we toured all over the place. We had a song called My Love Is the Shh. And it basically was #1 on the charts. I remember battling back and forth with Usher.
Wow.
For the #1 spot. And I remember seeing him one day, and I said, man, why don't you get out the way? Let us get that #1 for a minute. Yeah, but that was fun. I mean, it was different because we started off as a production team. And one of the artists that we worked with in the beginning was Brandy. We did our 4 songs on our debut album, and we had to kind of put on a different hat when you're a group, because as a producer, you kind of have the vision and you have an idea of what you want to do, but it's always the artist is going out and doing it. So as being an artist, you had to wear a different hat. You could still produce, but sometimes you had to think in terms of performing it. and all. So it took us a couple times to get it right, but we got it right eventually.
Was it hard to switch hats like that from, the artist performing and the producer behind the scenes, so to speak?
I wouldn't say it was hard. It was natural for the most part. I think just being a producer, once you write the song and record the song and mix it, and then you just relinquish it and you move on to the next thing. Whereas an artist, you may still write and produce and all that, but then you have to perform it. You have to put a show together. And, it's definitely a lot more that goes into it. And, some things that I learned as far as being an artist, some songs don't necessarily perform well. Like they may be great when you record them and all that stuff, but when you perform them, they're not really performance songs. First time I ever heard that, I heard Prince say that about one of his songs, and I got it like years later. I was like, I totally understand that.
So, speaking of Prince, may I ask, who is maybe the one musician or a few musicians that have inspired you the most?
He's one. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are the other. I think when I really, really got into music, it was just in that era when the Minneapolis sound was the it sound. And I remember going to a Prince concert in 1982, it was the 1999 tour. And I left that concert saying to myself, I'm going to do something in music. I don't know what I'm going to do in music, but I am going to do something in music.
So that was your defining moment.
It was.
Did you see?
I was with my brother, and my brother was a better musician than I was. He was totally more into music than I was because I was a sports guy. He was sports too, but I was even more.
Right.
So he was more music and I was more sports. And ironically, I was the one who really ended up going into music. He always says that. Isn't that funny, man? Are you the one that ended up doing this?
It's so funny how life works like that. I think I was at the same Prince concert with you, the Purple Rain concert at the Forum.
I was at the 1999 show at the Long Beach Arena.
I went to 1999 at the Prince 1999 I went to Purple Rain.
Purple Rain tour.
Purple Rain tour. That's what it was. 1983. 1983.
Somewhere in there. I know. Yeah, I think it was 82, 83. Somewhere in there, but yeah, it was Prince, The Time, and Vanity 6.
Yep, Morris Day and The Time. Yeah, I remember that. We're dating ourselves, just so you know.
Oh yeah.
I'll never forget that night. You were inspired to be a musician. I was inspired that Prince was somehow going to see me in the audience, and we would live happily ever after. So, yeah. So, and I know that you've done a lot with your music. So you're such a humble human being, and I love that about you. You've done a lot as a performer, producer, but you do other things. You groom other artists. You have an app that I don't know if you want to speak to any of that, or even like the music awards and some of the stuff that you've done, Roshad.
Well, I mean, I just kind of committed my life to music for the most part. And I think a lot of budding musicians and people who want to get into the business, they do that. Like, especially in the beginning, you're all music. Mm-hmm. So being that I'm older now, I realize that I can't just take all of this knowledge and information and experience that I've had in music and not share it. So I try to share it with a lot of people, a lot of young people who are looking to do something in music, and I'll just share experiences and things that I've learned and the whole nine. I hope that they all leave the conversation with something. I hope I either inspired them or gave them some information to help them get from point A to point B. But yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at in life. I mean, it's all about sharing experiences. And now it's not just all music stuff. It's just life experiences.
That's another topic I wanted to touch on with you. It's very interesting how you've gone, through these phases and done all this with music. You say you like to share with people and you like to mentor the young ones. So you've kind of you've kind of been transitioning as of late. So you're a coach. a personal, you love motivational speaking, you are a motivational speaker, but you also are a development, what do they call it? A development specialist.
Oh, personal development. I help people find out who they are. So I think it's a lot easier when you know how you process and how you operate and how you think. The more you know about yourself, the less issues that you'll have, especially from other people, because now you know how you process certain things. So one of the things I do with people is I have them take the Myers-Briggs personality assessment test. I took it almost 10 years ago.
And what are your letters?
I was an ENFJ.
Right.
Extrovert, feeler, N, intuitive, F is a feeler, J is judgmental. Not judgmental in the way that we think judgmental is. It's more being organized and all that. The opposite of a J will be a P, perception. And P's are just kind of living in the moment. A P would say, let's go to the beach right now.
So I am an ENFP, which is the same as him, but with the P instead of the J on the end, right?
You are definitely a P.
Let's go to the beach right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So that's great. I mean, so do you have these, you have all these, those that you mentor, and are they all ages?
All ages.
All
young
ages.
and old.
Young and old.
Span. Yeah.
So you start with them taking the Briggs-Myers test so they can get a sense of who they are. And
yeah, I mean, one, it helps me as a coach to know what their Myers-Briggs personality type is. And then if I know what their personality type is, now I know how to work with them.
Right.
So if they're an extrovert or an introvert, introverts process stuff more introvertedly, so they may not be as extroverted with a lot of different things. So there's a process. Like when I know who I'm working with, it's a lot easier for me to coach them. I read Phil Jackson's book on being able to coach Kobe and Shaq, and he talked about how different of people they are. Where Kobe was very cerebral and Shaq wasn't so much. So Shaq didn't particularly like being yelled at about certain things, whereas Kobe didn't necessarily mind if you yelled at him, but he actually was even better when you communicated it to him in a way that he understood. So I think that's just the process of becoming a good coach. You can't coach everybody the same.
Yeah, that's
not a one size fits all.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of, not just coaches, people in general make a mistake. They don't really look at people or their, for instance, like coaching as an individual. You kind of lump them all together, and you really have to take the time to see what works for somebody in order to bring the best out in them, right?
That's it. I mean, once you know the individual, and then there's other little quizzes and tests that you can take. You can find out what kind of learner you are.
What kind of learner?
Learner, yeah. So some people learn by sight, some people are audio, and some people are tactile.
Which one are you?
What business have I come up in?
I would say you're audio.
Yeah, so like if I need to remember something, it works best for me. If you tell me a phone number, it works best for me if I say the number out loud.
Okay. Do you sing it or you just say it?
I might say it in a way where it'll resonate with me.
Give it a catchy tune or something. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. So what? So
remember the song back in the 80s. 8675309.
Yeah, and yeah, but see how I remember it being kinetic, tactile.
Yeah.
Doing this, yeah. You remember 867.
Yep. See.
Yeah, definitely. So
you remember how you remembered it, and I remember it from the melody.
Yeah, exactly. No, it is interesting. Now, me being an educator, I'm very aware. I actually have my learners when I start a course. I'm a health educator. I have them take that test. There is a simple test you can take, so I know. Yeah. I want to make sure that I'm touching all learning styles. I do it anyway, but in the class, it's super duper important to know your audience. Really.
Yeah, I'm a combination. I'm not so much tactile, but I am visual and audio.
Visual and audio.
Yeah, so I can watch something and watch it over and over, and I can learn from it that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so interesting. So as far as you being audio, you know, I have to be seeing it and touching it more, you know, how your kids, you know, the iPhones when they were newer, and I was just kind of trying to navigate through that. And
Yeah.
the, you know, the young kids, you know, they pick it up just like that. Oh, mom, here, let me just do it. No, let me do it. You talk me through it while my hands are on it, and I'll never forget it. But yeah, definitely. So more, you have this program, and you have also a podcast.
Yeah, all that's coming. It isn't here yet. One of the things that I teach that I'm coaching is called flow. I don't know if a lot of people have heard about it or not, but being in flow is like being in the zone of doing something. So when you're in the zone, you basically are in flow. It's been scientifically proven, and that's what they call it now, flow. So when I was in sports, I experienced flow for the first time when I was a sophomore in high school. I was running track. I was running a track meet, and I was doing a triple jump. And my high school coach came to me right towards the end of the meet, and he said, Ro, that's what a lot of my friends call me, Ro. He said, Ro, if you win the triple jump, we win the meet. He said, I'm not trying to put any pressure on you. Go relax and do what you can. I know you'll win, and we'll all be happy. So long story short, I was jumping against a guy that was a senior, and I was a sophomore. I had never beat him before. And I just did what my coach told me to do. I relaxed. And I went out, and I can remember actually when I was jumping, in the process of jumping, when I was running down the runway, and when I started the jump felt like I was in slow motion. But I was super relaxed. And I won. We won the meet. And my coach was super proud and happy, and he always told the story about how he told me what to do and go out and do it. Now, I had experienced it, but I had never really known what it was in terms of a name or anything like that. We just always said relax and relaxation. So there was a book out that my coach gave me called Relax and Win. And the track coach from San Jose State wrote this book. And he had all these track athletes that broke world records and everything. And he taught them this relaxation technique when they ran. And it was the same thing that he taught that my coach was conveying to me. So I had a picture in my mind of what it looked like, and I would see runners do it. And it wasn't something that I practiced. I only tried to do it whenever I was competing at something. And it was just kind of a hit and miss thing for me. Sometimes I could do it, sometimes I wouldn't. But when I wasn't, I can tell like it felt a lot harder, and I would struggle through it to get through it.
So you teach people, you call it flow.
Yeah.
How to get in that moment of when you were jumping.
Yes.
Now, this obviously is not just for an athletic event. Share with us some situations where you would really want to be in the flow.
It's a mindset. So it's not so much your body kind of just reacts as relaxation, but it's really your mind being in this relaxed state. So when your mind is in the relaxed state, then the body kind of follows where the mind is. They've scientifically measured when you're in flow. Flow is when your brain is in theta mode. Theta mode is like super relaxed, like even more relaxed than alpha. And alpha is a very relaxed mode of flow. But theta is like the sweet spot of being in it. So it's learning how to put yourself in this relaxation so that you can get the results. Now, what I didn't know is that when I was running track and I was doing this, I technically was in the same space when I created music. I just never put the two and two together.
Interesting.
It wasn't until later that I was like, whoa, wait a second. Okay, I know what this feeling is. I know what it is. And so what happens is that like I could be working on music and I could be so into what I'm doing. It's like I'm completely zoned out, things around me, and I'm totally engaged into what I'm doing. And I'll look up and it's like 3 hours have gone by and I'm like, whoa, where did time go? So, but that's being immersed into flow. That's what flow is. And then it's effortless. It's like you're not trying. It's like basically you almost feel like you're just downloading the information and I'm just doing stuff and I'm not giving everything a whole lot of thought. I'm just boom.
Just going. And you can actually teach people.
You can teach people how to do it.
Well, I'm going to definitely be joining your group and learning how to do that. I know in knowing you for quite a while. I know you're big on meditation and visualization and everything.
I've been meditating for 15 years consistently. And I have a thing that I meditate with. It's called Muse. And Muse is a headband that goes around the front of your head. And it's got these sensors on the inside of it. And it fits around the back of your ears like glasses. And it's an app on the phone and you meditate with the app. So what happens is that when your brain is in theta mode or alpha, and theta more than likely, you have earbuds in when you're doing it. And when you're in the sweet spot, you hear birds chirping.
Really?
Yeah. But when you're not in the sweet spot, when your mind is wandering and going crazy, you hear, it sounds like a storm, a windstorm or something. So it's like,
really? I'll have to check that out. Yeah, that sounds like, because it is hard. I meditate and sometimes it is hard to shut down the brain and you're going to put something in your ears. So I could see how that could be helpful. Yeah. I know
meditation is learning how to quiet the mind.
And part of something that you shared with me previously is that you made this transition. It's always been in you because of course, it's just who you are. You are a coach, you're a mentor. Motivational speaking is no surprise given the way you're able to speak to people and your passion for helping others. But you shared with me that you've been doing the music for 30 years and you've transitioned into even though this has always been a part of you, you've transitioned over a little bit. And you said that as you started to get a little bit older, we're never that old, but as you started to age, you started realizing that you were the OG basically in the music industry and everyone was young and you felt that you had to transition. And there's so many people, I believe, in life that are in the same phase of life as you and I. Mm-hmm. And that's where they start to have, maybe depression or they start to have anxiety because they're not sure how to get transitioned to that next phase. Do you have any advice that you would give those people?
Yeah, I think that particularly with the middle-aged people, if you've been working a job since you were 20 years old, 20-something years old, and you get into your 50s, that job that you've been doing probably isn't quite the same job that you were doing the whole time. Mm-hmm. But in reality, what it is now, we basically live in a world where our generation was probably the last generation where they said, go to school, get a degree, work for 30-something years, retire, and you'll be good. Well, in our generation, what happened is that those jobs that we were supposed to work for 30 years didn't last 30 years. So you had all these middle-aged people who had to try and reinvent themselves and still get back into the job market and started realizing how competitive the job market is. Oh. And they weren't able to get the job that they wanted to. They were competing for a job with somebody who was going to make less money and fresh out of college. And the whole depression and frustration and all that sets in. But I think part of it is that at some point in your life, you have to kind of reevaluate and say, okay, what do I really want to do? What do I really want to do? Like, do I want to just go back to the job that I've been doing? Do I really like that job? Or maybe there's something else that I can do. So in my case, music for the most part is a young man's game. The business itself is driven by the youth. So if you think about what music does, like every decade has a sound. And as a creator of music, you have to be versatile enough to not get caught up in a decade and stuck. So if I was still doing the same kind of music that I did when I was in Something for the People, and I'm doing it now, I would be in trouble. So I've always had to be able to stay right on the cusp of change with music. And not only does the music itself change, but the way that you create it has changed. So you have to learn new software programs. When I first started doing music, there was no software. Like, you didn't have to do that. So for a lot of people, there's a learning curve, right, and all that. So my advice to people who are in that place and maybe feel like they're stuck and frustrated is, you got to do a little self-evaluation understand what it is, what you want to do, and figure out a way that you can fit into it. So much like an athlete, if I was a football player and I played professional football, as a professional player, you have a window to like really do your thing. So it's probably between somewhere in your 20s and your early 30s. You're super blessed if you're able to play longer than that. Like, you are phenomenal talent. But at some point, you are not going to be able to go out there and play with the guys that are out there then, because they're younger and more physical and faster and all that. So you have to come to an understanding with yourself and say, okay, what do I want to do? And I think that the ones that are able to make that adjustment are the ones that actually thrive. And we see it happen with people. We see it happen with super athletes. I mean, I think Shaq is a good example of that. Shaq has become like the pitch man of pitchmen. So, I mean, he was the most dominant. I'm the most dominant basketball player ever. And at some point, you're not going to be the most dominant player ever. So I just say that for anybody, whatever it is you've been doing, the world that we live in today is not really designed for you to work in what you do for 30 plus years and retire.
It's so true. And our parents don't, I don't know about your parents, mine don't quite understand. My mom, she has a brain tumor, and before she had a shunt, which she had increased pressure on her brain. So her behaviors weren't exactly, she didn't have a filter, I guess.
Uh-huh.
She was introducing me to somebody. She goes, "Oh, this is my middle one, Kathy. She collects jobs." No, I like change. I transition. Like, you go with if you're not, one thing I really like what you said about, it's not just about age or being at the same job. It's also about living life to the fullest, making a decision that this is one life, your life. Mm-hmm. And you want to live it to its fullest. If you're feeling that maybe you want to try something else, try it, right?
Yeah.
Step into another area. Even though our parents told us we have to do the same thing forever, and they did that, we don't have to. And it doesn't mean something's wrong, and it doesn't mean we're failing. It just means that we're open to opportunity for growth. And just like you're transitioning, and you're going to help people, from what I understand, help people identify what it is they want to do moving forward, right?
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, once you do that, I'm a firm believer that, as human beings, we're comprised of mind, body, and spirit.
100.
And we have to stimulate each of those areas. And I see when you don't stimulate each of those areas, I see imbalance. And when you do stimulate each of those areas, I see balance. So an example of unbalanced would be a person that goes to the gym 7 days a week, just lifts like crazy. When you go to the gym, you see them in the mirror and they're flexing and they're just doing, everything is all about the body, like all of that, right? But they're not doing anything for their mind, and they're not doing anything for their spirit. So everything is all about that. If they found out that they had to balance the other stuff, it would be good. And honestly, some of those people are just miserable, and they look fantastic, right? Physically, they look like Greek gods, but everything else is like, pardon my French, a shit show.
A shit show. And just because someone looks good on the outside doesn't even mean things are working, correctly on the inside. Not just the mind and the mind and the soul, but also the physical body on the inside. What you see is not always what you get, and that's important. Totally. Yeah, definitely. Roshad, you and I have had a lot of conversations about this, about the importance of that balance between mind, body, and soul, and how important it is to take care of each one of those equally, or it'll have negative implications for sure.
No doubt.
And again, it's not about, life isn't about killing time. It's about taking that time, precious time, and using it to, live life to your fullest, again, with all those three areas. And right now, during our COVID-19 isolation, we've been given the gift of time. I look at it as a gift.
I do too.
No background noise. Yeah. Yeah.
No
You know,
distractions.
no distractions, no you're not know where you have to go, know where you're going to be, which is it's different for everybody, and I know some people are struggling, but I encourage people out there to really take this time to connect your mind, your soul, your body, whatever it is. Determine, in my book I call it your what's, but what is it that's important to you and only you, something that gives you an intrinsic reward. And figure it out and take a chance in life. We don't have to be stagnant. The world's changing, everything's changing. And speaking of changing, so I have my book, The Rule of Nines, that, but I do have a new book. It's an online dating book. So talk about reinventing yourself. I never planned to be an author. It just happened. I love to write. It's my outlet. So this new book is about online dating. And it's called The Girlfriend's Guide to Internet Dating, She Says, He Says. So I'm going to start doing some interviews, talking to people about their online dating experiences. Are you down for a conversation?
Cool. I mean, I haven't dated online in a long time, but I'll throw in my 2 cents.
Yeah, no. Okay, so viewers, truth be told, so I actually met Roshad, probably 5 years ago, maybe a little bit more than 5 years ago. I met him on online dating. And actually, it was kind of funny. So I had and this is, I think, important, is when you go out on a date to not take it too serious. I don't know if you would agree, but try to learn something new, something about yourself and something about somebody else.
You should never take anything too serious.
well, yeah, but a lot of women were out there, and I don't want to say all women, but men too. Is this the one? Is this the one? Is this the one? And I had this mindset after a relationship that had ended that I was going to go on 10 dates, even though my heart was broken and I didn't want to go on any. I went on 10 and I had 9 dates. Okay, what can I learn new? Oh, someone was a hairdresser. I learned about a good way to condition your hair. I'll just find something new. And then again, always trying to grow. What can I learn about me? And finally, I just was like, would come home almost in tears. I just don't want to do this, but I'm forcing myself because I need to move forward. I can't stay in this, broken heart era. So my 10th date was actually Roshad. He was my 10th date, and he turned my thought process around. No, we didn't. He can tell you his own story. He's in a relationship, right? But from online dating, he met someone. But what I'm saying is, I learned so much from him throughout the years, and we've stayed friends. And he is a hell of a man and a human being. What was that?
What'd you learn from me?
I learned about patience. That was a big one, patience. I learned about consistency for sure. Consistency over time speaks volumes. So I would say those are, and I would also learned that there are good-looking men that have that have a good heart and a good soul that are out there on the dating market. So even if most of your experiences end up not being that, there's always that that 1 in 10, I guess.
I always think of when you say consistency, I think of Denzel Washington giving a speech to some young actors. And he was like, you gotta have discipline and consistency. Discipline and consistency. It was like it was super motivational. It was.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. But that's true. So as far as, consistency, you have to look at people and see their consistency of their behavior over time. You can't tell who somebody is in a date or 2 dates or even a couple of months. But what do you believe? We're just going to start here. People can find love online.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it happened to you, right?
Yeah. It doesn't. I mean, I don't know about the where. Doesn't matter so much.
Right.
I think what's more important than the where is the when. It's timing.
Timing.
Yeah. It's like where both parties are is one thing, but it's like when that happens is the key. I mean, that's the magic ingredient. I come from music, so I guess the equivalent would be if I were, what place was I in when in mind space was I in when I wrote a particular hit? Mm. So it's not because you're not going to go in the studio every time and write a hit. So it's really about the when. It's like what happened and when did it all line up for it to happen. And I think the same thing with relationships. It's like the things have to kind of line up for both parties.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So you got to have a couple of funny stories.
Of online dating?
Yeah, can you think of one of the funniest stories or alarming stories that you may have heard?
Yeah, let me see. Let me think about this. I don't know if it's alarming, but I will say that I did go out a couple of times, and the person that I saw in person did not look anything remotely close to the person that I saw online.
So when you say not remotely close, tell me or describe for us what the pictures look like and describe what your actual date looked like.
Could have probably been photoshopped. I think it's no big secret, especially for men, when you see women who on their profile pictures or their pictures, everything is like headshots from the shoulders up.
Mm-hmm.
They're obviously not crazy about their body or whatever. They may be hiding something.
Mm.
One woman in particular, I remember she had an acne problem.
Mm-hmm.
Which wasn't, everybody has acne, but I just noticed that when I saw her in person, it definitely was a difference from and I realized when I look back at the pictures on there, like all her pictures have been touched.
Right.
And they're like,
that's
little stuff like that. I mean, for the most part, I never had a disaster date that I can think of. I know one of my friends told me he does online dating, still does. He said that he had a couple of dates where he met the woman out for drinks, and I don't know, in like 30 minutes of conversation, they realized that it wasn't going to be a connection. And he was like, well, it's cool. Let's just have some drinks. Let's have the drinks and then we'll go about our way. So it was like they had a few drinks and then just went on about their way, and that was it.
Yeah. There's a lot of that, and that's something that I talk about in the book. There's a lot. It goes through all the different aspects of online dating. Which site you should go on. What kind of profile do you set up? What pictures should you send? And one of the things is full disclosure and honesty, because you're on there hopefully to try to meet in person at some point. And if you look nothing like your photos, then you're already you're to me you're dishonest.
Mm-hmm.
You're not what you say you are. So if you're not what you say you are there, and I'm sorry, it's not about looks, but just be honest. It's about honesty. I'd gone on one date years ago, and we met for a drink. And I'm like, where are you? I'm right here. Where? Wearing the Cowboys baseball cap. Literally, the person was right in front of me. And I have no idea, probably about maybe 15 years older looking, or it was probably a 15-year-old picture, and much heavier. And it just didn't even look like the same person, unrecognizable. However, I would have still gone on the date if it was a nice person, but I already X'd him out as you're dishonest. You didn't tell me who you were. So, one thing I is challenged right now for those who are, I have to tell you, it's, the game's changed due to the COVID-19 and social isolation, but the players are the same.
Right.
It's now about Zooming meeting. And then,
better.
With that, you have to be careful. You make sure that this is a fully clothed Zoom meeting. That's what I'm saying. The game has changed, but the players are the same. 100.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah. Well, So
I think with online dating, like I say, it's more about the win. But I think if both people are on the same page when it comes to dating, I think part of the issue with online dating is that you may have one person they're just in it for the sex part of it, the fun part of it. The other person may be looking for a relationship, and they may not discuss that. And they're both coming from 2 points of views or 2 perspectives. And, that's just a recipe for disaster.
So what's the solution to that?
is basically you got to have the conversation before you actually even get to the date.
Yeah.
Now, what are you looking for? Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, there's a lot of misrepresentation about that also. People saying that they're looking for long-term when they're looking for a hookup, so to speak, and vice versa. Women, I've known women that they say that they're looking for, casual friends first when they're really looking for they're looking to get married for, not just a relationship. They're looking to tie the knot and as soon as possible, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you just put that? Well, because I don't want to scare them away. You might scare away 100 people that are not right for you. That's okay. You might have the one person that is the person for you that wants the same thing, because they're probably the minority, that you will scare that person away. And then you'll know, and you're going to be doing the same thing over and over.
Now, what are the benefits of online dating? I could think of a bunch of benefits.
Oh, which are?
One, you get a chance to meet people that you probably would never cross paths with.
Right.
You may not frequent the same places. You may live a distance apart from each other.
Mm-hmm.
But you may have a lot of commonalities, and without online dating, the chances of you ever meeting are probably slim to none.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially as you move into our age group, it's not, we're not in college, well, unless you're like me and you continually go, but it's online too. But you're not in college. You're not in basically the social situations that we found ourselves in when we were younger. And generally, that's a way that we meet people that are single. You're all young. You're kind of, for the most part, all in the same boat. But you're right. This is a way to, do it, navigate. But to me, it's like going online and looking at pictures. I don't know about you. It's no different than now. I didn't initially. I was scared to death to do it at first and never posted a picture for a while. Suicide. No. But it's like going to a bar and you're looking at, all those men are sitting at the bar. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like maybe you used to, or they're all in the college class, but they're not. They're online. But I actually get to know a little bit about them. A little bit more. I don't have to go up and ask. I already know a little bit about their background if they're being honest, right? Yeah, no, it does open doors for sure.
Yeah, and then plus and then another benefit is that you may not necessarily have a love connection, but you have a friend connection.
No, like us.
Yeah.
We're friends. We never would be talking right now or been friends for these years if we hadn't, stepped
over 5 years.
Yeah, definitely. Which is of course, Roshad, you can see he's a blessing, and anyone he's in anyone's life he's in, I'm sure he's a blessing to them in one way, shape, or form. So before we wrap it up, I would like to know if you have any advice for, we gave some advice already for those that are going through that transition and looking for something else to do, and a little bit about our, self. What about our online dating advice? What are you going to give to the ladies? What are you going to tell the ladies? Give them a tip from a man.
I'll tell them the same thing that I would have told the people looking for advice with their careers and everything. One thing that you can do, at least Myers-Briggs will tell you this too. You can take the Myers-Briggs test, and not only will it tell you what careers kind of fit into your personality type, but it also will tell you other Myers-Briggs personalities that may be compatible with yours.
Yeah. Smart. And also there's that 5 love languages test.
Love languages are huge.
Huge.
Yeah. Do you know yours?
I actually do. Mine are words of affirmation and physical touch, pretty much equal. My very last one is acts of service.
Yeah, mine's quality time and physical touch.
Quality time and physical touch, yeah. So those 3 were actually very close together. I usually have 2 that are almost the same, and then that quality time was there. Actually, sometimes I've taken it more than once, and they kind of bump,
Yeah. Well, you're consistent.
Yeah, consistently bumping. And the acts of service, it's so funny because I was married, I was married for almost 17 years with them for, 18 and a half years.
Yeah.
And one thing that I wish I would have known more about that book at the time, I did read it, towards the end, but he didn't read it. I think it would have been really helpful because he would do things for me all the time. That was probably his love language. Like, stop cleaning the backyard and come sit with me and have a glass of wine, and let's just, you know, cuddle up and talk. So he's thinking he's pleasing. So you could see how it is really super important to know that. So yeah, they should do that test when you log into a dating site, where you can take some of those tests and it automatically pops up what you are. So you can search, instead of searching for, you know, tall, dark, and handsome, search for an ENFP.
Your personality type compatibility thing, yeah.
Search for your love language. It's probably better.
Your love language.
Yeah.
I can think of a number of times where I was doing my love language to whoever I was with at the time, and their love language was completely opposite. And I didn't know anything about love languages at the time, and neither did they. So, and we definitely hit some bumps in the road because I didn't know what she was speaking and she didn't know what I was speaking. We might as well have been speaking two different languages.
And that's what it is. It's two different languages. They definitely are love languages. And when you think about how, you know, the majority, almost 80% of our communication is nonverbal, those languages are for the most part nonverbal communication. So it is important. If you have,
I was going to say, like, mine is quality of time is huge for me. So I can, if I feel that I'm giving you my time, that's satisfactory for me. You know, that's satisfaction for me. But if, you know, my significant other isn't quality of time, she's words of affirmation, and I'm not saying something to uplift her or make her feel good about herself or the situation, we're definitely not communicating.
Definitely not. Yeah. Because your need, somehow that need is not being met, and that's, relationships are, you know, there's always ups and downs, but it's important that you meet your partner's needs, whatever they are.
Absolutely.
And communication, 100%.
Yeah.
For sure. So it's been great talking to you, and I have one question before I let you share how people can get in touch with you. Roshad, how do you love you, live you?
How do I love me, live me? I love me, live me by doing the things that I love to do. And which is, you know, part of that is I love going to the beach. I love meditating. I love doing yoga. I love creating music. I love creating, period. And I love reading. So I have this, it's that balance thing that I was speaking about earlier. As long as I'm doing that kind of stuff, I love me, live me.
That is awesome. And it's always a pleasure talking with you, because you always have, it seems that something in the works. You're always got something going on, which makes it really interesting.
What you making, man? I got about 12 job, man.
Yeah. Mom.
You only got 2 jobs.
I'm looking right here at my sheet. You don't have 12 yet. You gotta get some more things.
I got 12 in the making, man.
So anyway, Roshad Holiday, Roshad, if you could let everybody, our viewers, know, how can they get in touch with you?
You can email me at info@roshadholiday.com. That's ROCHADHOLIDAY. info@roshadholiday.com. And I'm on all social media, Roshad Holiday. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that, Roshad Holiday.
I'm excited to have you back again, because I want to take your program, your flow, and I want to bring you back and talk to you about it after I'm done. You know, I know that having ADHD pretty much since I was a child, it's quite a struggle. You know, my meditation twice a day is really important to me, but it's not easy, and it's never, to this day, does it. It's very important in my life. Never does it come easy with thoughts that are all over the place most of the time.
Well, the beauty of it now is that with all this tech, biotech, they have stuff to make meditation easier. Like I said, I'd meditate with Muse. They have all kinds of other, biotech that will give you feedback on your meditation. So you'll be able to look at the app on your phone after you finish and see where that sweet spot is. I mean, that sweet spot is flow. That's when you're in flow. Everything has a sweet spot.
Well, I am definitely going to order that. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that later. But again, everybody, Roshad Holiday, you can get a hold of him on info
at RoshadHoliday.com.
At RoshadHoliday.com or Facebook, Instagram, Roshad Holiday.
That's
So
it.
thank you so much for taking the time. It was good to see you.
Absolutely.
And good luck with everything.
Best of luck to you too. And I will come back when I get this podcast going. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to share the love.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Bye. 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 Thank you for tuning in, everybody.